What will our cities look like in the future? Shiny dreamscapes? Science fiction come true? Or something else entirely? Like a return to nature?
Cities need to be part of the natural history, or we'll destroy everything.
Or energy generators?
There's never been something like this in the middle of a city.
Reusing ruins could help protect the climate.
The problem with new construction is the energy it requires.
These two concrete towers once belonged to the VEB Elektrokohle Lichtenberg, a state-owned factory for graphite production in what was then East Germany. Today, the towers are a kind of pilgrimage site for architecture lovers. The renovation was the brainchild of German architect Arno Brandlhuber. He's famous for his innovative ideas. Following the renovation, he moved his office headquarters from Berlin's Mitte district to the concrete GDR megalith.
We tend to tear down buildings when they no longer serve their original purpose and construct new ones, because we think construction generates more revenue and higher returns. But every time you demolish a building, all the energy that went into building it is lost, just wasted. To simplify, imagine half the energy is in the actual building, while only half is used for things like heating and cooling, what we generally think of as energy usage. It would make more sense to take the entire energy system into account, because when you see it like that, every renovation saves around half the total energy input.
Architecture, after all, isn't really disposable. Concrete has a considerable carbon footprint, and the sand needed for its production is an increasingly scarce commodity. Cities would do well to begin reusing what's already there. Another idea, working with natural materials that can be found near a given construction site.
On the one hand, we have the renewable resource, wood. But we're already seeing that countries where wood is being grown are delivering to countries with fewer renewable resources. This leads to it becoming less available in countries where it was once used. So if we're thinking in terms of the total energy balance, we need to ask which local materials can be used for construction. A Swiss colleague often constructs with clay, and he wants to build a clay tower here. The area around Berlin has quite a lot of clay, so you could really try using it for construction, then reinforcing it. Such buildings would definitely need more maintenance than ones made of concrete, but it could work.
Using regional materials and converting buildings wherever possible is a smart solution. Nonetheless, some future-oriented projects build from the ground up. Take Toyota and Panasonic. Both companies are constructing entire cities today to figure out what residents will need tomorrow. Residents of these living laboratories supply companies with data, as do those who make their home in Future Living Berlin, a smart new residential quarter. Birgit Eberhardt is the project's manager.
In Future Living Berlin, we want to show what life could look like in the future. This includes generating energy on site, having keyless access, and making car sharing easily available. We brought all of these aspects together in this project and made them a reality.
By observing how residents use the different services, companies learn which products to focus on. The district has a parcel station, a smart laundromat, and storage containers in the basement. Front doors, elevators, mailboxes, and the underground parking garage can all be opened via app. No keys are required.
Here are 5 car-sharing parking spots. We have electric smarts, different models, a 4-seater, a convertible, and 3 2-seaters.
Residents will only be charged for car sharing after the test phase of the residential quarter Future Living has ended. Meanwhile, the Japanese mobility giant Toyota is building an entire smart city near the base of Mount Fuji. A ceremony was held in spring 2021 to celebrate the start of construction. Toyota President Akio Toyoda and Woven City CEO James Kuffner both took part.
The cities of the world are suffering the similar problems of pollution and traffic and safety, and technology holds some potential to improve those. And so Woven City is really meant to be a living laboratory where we can accelerate the development of those technologies and try to learn.
In this Woven City, 3 types of pathways will crisscross to form an organic grid pattern. One pathway will be dedicated to automated driving, one to people with personal mobility vehicles, and one to pedestrians. The promise: safe and efficient mobility thanks to artificial intelligence.
And we can use modern AI to do things that we couldn't do 10 or 20 years ago, in the sense that the same way that computer-aided design tools have been able to accelerate the development of chassis or engines, we can use a digital twin or a simulation of the entire city to understand the flow of traffic, personal mobility, what is the optimal placement or location of charging stations to support a population of several thousand commuters or residents.
Woven City is being built on the site of a former Toyota plant. Initially, some 360 future enthusiasts will move there, a group that includes young families and senior citizens. Residents will generate real-life data as they move through the city testing new products and services. Toyota isn't the only company building test cities in Japan. Electronics manufacturer Panasonic is inaugurating its 3rd large-scale residential project. Its first was Fujisawa Sustainable Smart Town near Tokyo.
Panasonic isn't building gigantic smart cities that are anonymous. Everything is designed together with residents. This is called a lifestyle-based approach.
And if that lifestyle calls for virtual waterfalls, Panasonic is prepared to deliver them. Big plans can be tested on a small scale in laboratory cities. For example, an estimated 60 million lanterns worldwide could become charging stations for electric vehicles. Or they could be distribution points for digital data and services. The lanterns could also be equipped with surveillance cameras or used for traffic management.
What sets our laboratory cities apart is that they're never finished. We always have an eye on how they're evolving and on what's coming up next. Panasonic doesn't do that alone, but in collaboration with residents and partner companies.
Panasonic is also working with the smart urban quarter Future Living Berlin. These photovoltaics are originally from Japan. The solar panel's energy output is being measured using infrared images. It's one example of the many types of data smart cities supply companies with around the clock.
Let's take a look at the first roof.
In the end, what matters is what you do with that data. It may not look like it, but here at the Vall d'Aura Pass in Spain, just above Barcelona, people are also thinking about future cities.
Muy bien, ¿qué tal? Good.
Vicente Gualat is director of Vall d'Aura Labs, a visionary project by a Catalonian architecture research institute. His visitor has come from London. Architect Oscar Rodriguez wants to learn more about Vall d'Aura Labs, which uses practical exercises in their sustainable urban design research.
And this is what the students do. The first exercise is they need to produce their own furniture. Well, this is the Catalan vault, but we did it. So all this extension we excavate here. But this is Vall d'Aura timber, you know. It's really fantastic. We are doing timber of 0 kilometer. Yeah. We are doing buildings of 0 kilometer because we are using the timber that is around in order to do our prototypes. I mean, the new model, if we follow the natural systems, is our city should absorb CO2 instead of emit CO2. And in order to do it, we need to transform our buildings and they should generate energy, like as the tree, they generate their own energy. And also, we should start to grow our food within the cities or around the cities, because moving things around the world is part of the centralized industrial system of the 20th century. Okay, so here you will see different things, but the right order is we bring the pines there.
The idea then is to integrate agriculture and industry into the city of tomorrow. As far as possible, everything should be produced locally: food, building materials, and energy. This would pave the way to a CO2-neutral future. The wood used for the prototype buildings comes from forests located right next to the Vall d'Aura lab. Every piece of timber has been meticulously color-coded.
You see that we paint every trunk with a different color because we do a geolocalization. And then our idea is to be very radical, because then when we see the construction that we do, we can know each piece of timber from which tree was coming from. We are testing in fact what will be outside the vault.
The whole point is eventually we're going to have to start thinking about different ways of building that are far more sensitive to their context, far more sensitive to their provenance. That's the key word, is provenance. That's something that we've not cared about for a very long time, and eventually we're going to have to look at those big glass towers and we're going to say, can we actually continue to do that?
The provenance of energy has also become an important topic. In climate-friendly future cities, energy would no longer be imported, but produced within the city through photovoltaics, wind and hydrogen technology, like here in Esslingen, Germany. In the Neue Weststadt, green hydrogen will soon be produced, right below residential buildings. Officials from Stuttgart's regional council are about to visit the site.
This type of facility is something you'd expect to see in an industrial area. There's never been something like this in the middle of a city. That was like crossing a new frontier, and it's what makes this project so special. Today, the final inspection is taking place. The regional council is coming to the site to take a look, now that construction is complete.
Project manager Simon Marx greets the council members. The officials explain what they need to see, and the group heads in. The green hydrogen concept is designed to be sustainable. Photovoltaic systems on the roof deliver the electricity that powers the electrolyzer. This produces hydrogen by splitting water into component molecules. It's located in the basement right next to the parking garage. The plan is to store this hydrogen and use it to power heavy-duty delivery trucks. But the system does more than that. Electrolysis also generates heat, which will contribute to supplying the neighborhood with warm water and heating. But hydrogen is a highly reactive element, so it's important to ensure the system fulfills all safety requirements. Professor Norbert Fisch notes that the TÜV, an independent body that tests technical systems, didn't join the inspection.
No one from the TÜV came, it was just the regional board.
Fisch is the project's scientific director and one of its investors.
Yes, so they still want to see the inspection certificates by the TÜV.
Hydrogen is seen as a fuel of the future, and Germany is investing more than 8 billion euros in hydrogen projects to make it marketable by 2023.
So I think it was a successful day for us.
Green hydrogen is considered to be particularly sustainable. But to power vehicles with hydrogen, you also need power units and a network of hydrogen filling stations. This is still a long way off.
With a passenger car, 1 kilogram of hydrogen will get you around 100 kilometers. So with our daily production, 400 cars could drive 100 kilometers per day. Just to give you an idea of what you can do with 1 kilogram of hydrogen. With trucks, you need more. A 40-ton truck needs around 4 or 5 kilos for 100 kilometers.
These days, marketing green ideas is easier than it was even a few years ago. From 2011 to 2015, Vicente Gualart was Barcelona's city council architect. His ideas contributed to the city growing into a model of successful urban development in Europe.
Yeah, 20 years ago, the new frontier was how to merge the digital world with cities, architecture, and urbanism. But now we know how this digital future will be. The new frontier right now is how we merge cities with nature. So how cities become part of the nature, how cities are following the principles of the natural systems in order to promote life.
To achieve this, Barcelona still has a long way to go. Signs of the early 90s when the city hosted the Olympic Games. Nondescript architecture and little greenery. But just a short distance away, one of Barcelona's landmarks, the Torre Gloriès, by French star architect Jean Nouvel. 3 busy automobile routes used to intersect here. Now visitors walk through a park.
Part of what we have been doing in the last years is demolishing the highway and in fact making a park. Because if you want to do an urban renaturalization, you need to start also from the core. If you do here, everyone will understand that you can apply these ideas everywhere, no?
The architect is banking on a very old building material for the future, wood. He's just been awarded the contract for a social housing project. It will be the largest wooden building in Spain. Gualart trains the next generation of sustainable architects here in the Valdaura Lab. A new group has just arrived. The students come from 18 different countries. Vicente Gualart introduces them to his BioCities concept.
We are going to start to walk. The walk will be 3 hours, around 3 hours.
Self-sufficient circular systems as the basis for a new urbanity. The concept draws inspiration directly from nature.
If you abandon something, you get a forest. And that's why we have a forest here, because all of this was agriculture land. Yeah? The bricks to make the house was done in this oven. So it was kind of self-sufficiency because they were taking the earth from here, the water from here, and the fire from the forest. Yeah? Vamos. Shh. Hey, callao. You are looking to the future. We are not looking to the past. We are looking to the future because if you abandon a city, what you will get will be a forest. Because the forest grows, because it can reproduce itself. The forest, absorb CO2 while the cities emit CO2. The forests are using natural resources like the sun energy. So we would like to make buildings like trees and cities like forests. Cities need to be part of the natural history or we'll destroy everything. So that means that we need to learn how to make our living environment not just copying the nature, but following the rules of the natural systems. The biocities are the cities that follow the rules of the natural systems, and this is what we want to do.
Traces of a medieval settlement on the site suggest a palace and a monastery.
They were living here only 20 years, and we still need to find the church that is somewhere there.
Biocities should be largely self-sufficient. This would dismantle global supply chains, as the cities of tomorrow will find what they need in their immediate surroundings.
We need to bring back the production to the city centers, but we need to do following some other rules. So from that point of view, we think that the future is about being connected globally with digital networks, but being productive locally, making energy, making food, making materials, using 3D printing to this new process of reindustrialization.
In spring 2021, the Spanish architect won the contract for Chong'an, a huge new development near Beijing. His bio-city will bring farming inside the urban limits. Work, energy production, water recycling. For Vicente Gualat, everything belongs under the same roof, or better still, under many roofs. Will cities of the future function as well as village communities of the past? And could we really make do without constructing new buildings from the ground up? German architect Arno Brandlhuber is open to new ideas.
Das war eine ehemalige Unterwäschefabrik.
This was a former underwear factory. They made what were known as the love killers, ribbed women's undergarments with 3 elastic bands.
Mit 3 Gummizügen hergestellt.
In place of these 2 production buildings, which together had a good 1,000 square meters, you could have built 3 single-family houses with 100 square meters each. But replacing 1,000 square meters with 300 square meters is a bad trade. So often when you preserve a building, you win double, because you save yourself the demolition costs, and you gain the shell, and thus preserve all the energy that went into creating it.
Arno Brandlhuber's Anti-Villa is a spectacular example of sustainable building. Heating is provided by geothermal energy and a chimney. The Anti-Villa also incorporated an old-fashioned trick to reduce heating needs.
You can see the curtain rail here. We hang a curtain in winter. That means the area that needs to be heated is much smaller. 80 square meters in winter, all well heated behind the curtain, and a much larger living area from spring to fall.
This technique was commonly used in the past. People would move closer together and thus reduce the living space that requires heating. It's a more flexible approach to using spaces, and one we may well be returning to in the future.
This building wasn't especially beautiful, in quotation marks, but that's something important to keep in mind when dealing with existing buildings. You shouldn't follow aesthetic ideas and ask, how can this be beautiful? Nor should you only plan for one use in the future. Instead, think about many possible purposes and study the building's structure until the solution presents itself. This leads to a picture, which, as long as it's coherent, is also beautiful. We think anything coherent develops its own beauty, but it's not beauty you would have had in your mind as an image beforehand.
Not building from scratch is one step towards meeting climate targets. The EU wants to be climate neutral by 2050. Germany wants to achieve this goal in 2045. Reaching these goals will require a lot of sacrifice. Cities of the future cannot consist of sparkling new concrete and glass palaces. For us to continue to prosper, we must stop harming our planet. Only then will we find that our future cities are good places to live in.